End the broadcast.
That's much more effective.
Be right with you, everybody.
Are we on?
I had already, yeah, I already clicked live.
Yeah, I mean, I've ran some threes on there already. Yeah, what do we got?
Well, if you're out there listening, and that is your dream, we have your chance. It's 97.5 The Fanatics Knockout Tournament.
Yes.
Starting this Monday, listen to 97.5 The Fanatic weekdays at 8.
Am I on the PA? There we go. Welcome to the East Food Hall. It is Flyers game day with Brian Smith and Jason Martinez as we get you ready for Flyers and Red Wings. Nice to see the orange and black jerseys again. Good to be back after what seems like the 78th pause to this season.
8 days off, and I forget how to plug everything in.
Yeah, me too.
I'm only an amateur plugger-inner of things. These guys are the pros, but this stuff works a lot better when you plug it in.
Yeah, we got to get the union people to do that for us. Not allowed to plug anything in.
Yeah.
I will say that the 8 days between games, it was good, and it was timed well. I know from a hockey standpoint, players, teams, coaches, when you're winning, you want to play as many games as possible.
Yeah.
But every game would have presented an opportunity to wash good taste. So we got back-to-back wins for the first time since December, and we got 8 days extra to enjoy it.
I can't imagine what this break would have been like for these guys if they'd gone into it 15 in a row. I mean, that would have just been the longest 8 days ever. You know, you just can't enjoy it. You can't do anything really. Questions that Claude would have had out in Vegas. So good that they were able to get those 2 wins before the break. And I think they have the capability to pick up right where they left off, to be honest. And if nothing else, they've got one guy back tonight in Derek Brassard. You wish they had a few more back, but they've had the 2 wins coming into the break. Had a good practice yesterday, and they've got a stretch coming up here where they basically play twice a week.
Yeah.
So it's
light.
Yeah. So there's a lot of time to kind of get established and kind of reset. The playoffs again, probably unlikely. I think they got to go something like 36-4.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's always a chance.
This is like Mary Swanson and Lloyd Christmas.
Right. But at least to get back to a winning environment and over this next stretch here of about 3 months, be able to set a course moving forward for the organization, figure out who's going to be part of it player personnel-wise, give some guys a chance to come up from the American Hockey League and see what they got. And, today with Danny Briere officially being given a front office title, not too much of a change from what he's been doing the last few months, but now he's got a title and ostensibly something to put on a business card to go along with it. Plus, he's, I believe now officially will move on from the Maine Mariners. The path is the path's kind of being laid here to get everything set moving forward, and use these next 3 months to catapult into the 22-23 season.
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's a lot of decisions to make between now and March 21st.
Yeah.
One of the elements, and speaking of decisions, was the Flyers opted to recall Isaac Ratcliffe, 2 days ago. They did not recall Cam York or Morgan Frost, and they're not here for today's game. Now, one of those is obviously the position of Derek Brassard, as you alluded to, is coming back tonight, plays the center position. But York and Morgan Frost are with the Phantoms. They played yesterday,
yes,
as a matter of fact.
Yep.
And I know that has a lot of Flyer fans disappointed.
True.
Because one of the elements, and I talked to Danny before the game, Danny Briere, and I've been talking about a lot on the podcast and anywhere, and anybody that'll listen is they got to find a positive to take out of this season where they're so sideways in the standings, right?
Right.
And Danny said, I wouldn't necessarily call it a positive. I would call it an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you look at No Frost in New York. Now, it's not like they're not playing and they can't accomplish that with the Phantoms. And I imagine they'll be back here soon enough, but they're not here tonight.
Right.
So that's part of the equation. But Isaac Ratcliffe is, which I thought was an interesting dynamic and kind of twist to that whole kind of story.
Well, I mean, I think that Isaac Ratcliffe might have had
Size
size on the wing, but I think he had, to me anyway, one of the most impressive debuts of the season.
Yeah.
Among these guys that have come up and been tossed out there and had an opportunity to show what they can do.
Impactful, right?
Impactful, yeah.
Yeah.
What the team needs right now. Cam York did not look bad when he was up here.
He's played well.
But he it was kind of like a check-in for him. Okay, here I am. Here's another spin through the NHL. Let's go back down now to the American League and get some 25-minute games in.
Well, no, that's not going to play the right side down there.
Exactly. Yeah. That whole thing that they're trying to figure out there is probably for down the road. That's probably one of the things the Flyers are going to be working on here over the next couple of months is maybe getting him some time there and see how it goes. But as for Morgan Frost, again, maybe just another couple of weeks worth of honing skills. I mean, again, a guy that missed all of last year, is looking good overall as part of that line with Max Willman and those guys. But that's not a sustainable thing, I guess. That line is doing well now. I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be the next Legion of Doom. We'll put it that way. So, whatever they want him to work on down there, I'm sure he'll get down there and take care of it. And again, the Phantoms need to have some players right now. And there's rules in terms of who you can bring up, who you can send down, and not have to go through waivers and stuff like that. And the Flyers don't want to lose a Jerry Mayhew. They don't want to lose a Zach McEwen, guys like that, by having to put them on waivers to get up and down to the American Hockey League. Because they need those guys right now in their experience to continue to try to keep the ship afloat with everybody that's out right now. So that enters into it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that, at first blush you don't see.
Right.
You look at it and just go, he's not here. Why is this guy here? There's the business of hockey as well. And waivers are a reality for a general manager to deal with. And you can only have so many guys with the big club. There's no taxi squad anymore.
Exactly. That went away.
That's gone. So it doesn't allow you to just kind of expand in your roster on what you carry at the NHL level. So it's a bit of a different, animal to have to deal with and a lot of things for the general manager and the hockey operations department to consider. Now let's talk about Danny Briere real quick because you mentioned him and I just mentioned that I talked to him. Everybody will be able to hear my conversation with Danny. It was a 15-minute conversation. On tomorrow's episode of Flyers Daily, as we recap this game, we'll give you that conversation with Danny as well. And I've said this on many occasions, Brian, that the first time I cracked a microphone in this business professionally was 1993, 29 years ago. I was an intern.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have not dealt with, in all my years in music radio, in sports radio, as a broadcaster or whatever, a more pleasurable person to talk to interact with, on the air, off the air, just a first-class individual. Nobody in my 29-year broadcasting career, I know I don't look at this old, I feel it, but nobody is as classy and as dignified as he is. That's not a reason to hire him to be the special assistant to the general manager, though. The reason you hire him is because of the person that he is and the steps he took from the moment he hung up his skates to get to this point. Whether it's going to the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Finance, not a bad school, or it's going to work in Maine in the ECHL or shadowing people in business. I remember when he first retired and he's shadowing, at the time, Sean Tilger, and I walk into a radio meeting and he's sitting there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He wanted to learn all elements of this thing. And he's a guy that's getting thought of around the league. Obviously, he was a finalist for the Montreal gig. And he's now the special assistant to the general manager here. And to me, I think he's a huge asset on the ice, off the ice, just all elements. Every box, I think he checks.
There's an aspect of what a guy brings to an organization that will attract other people to it. You see that sometimes, a lot of times in the coaching ranks. Rod Brindamore is an example that comes to mind. He's a coach that that players want to go play for. In fact, there's been some speculation as of late that if Rod Brindamore was not the coach in Carolina, that nobody would want to go anywhere near that place for various reasons involving ownership and whatnot. But there's that kind of aspect to certain individuals that would draw them to an organization, and I think Danny's got a lot of that. Usually the first thing, or maybe not even top 5 things that come to mind for somebody when he gets hired into an NHL front office is to, in the press conference, make sure that he gives a ton of credit to the staff of the ECHL team that he is leaving.
Yeah,
and that happened today. That was he made sure to say that. And it goes back even further than that. Like, I was in, you mentioned the radio meeting. We used to have, business meetings here that involved everybody, leading up to games, so everybody was on the same page as to what was happening and stuff like that. And he started showing up in that, and we thought, wow, that's interesting. But even before that, the one thing that always comes to mind when I'm telling stories about Danny Briere is, one of the things we do in the communication side and stuff is we deal with, player autographs and things of that nature. And, we help facilitate sessions where guys will sign maybe, 100 things that then get donated to charities, or, people want to auction off something to raise money. We give them a signed puck or whatever. So we are constantly involved in that. And a lot of times we're using detective work to try to figure out who signed something, especially when it was signed 5 years before.
Scribbled and
and Danny is not somebody that requires detective work, because he has made it a point for his entire career to sign an autograph that the recipient can read. And it goes back to when he was a young boy and becoming a hockey fan, and he got an autograph from Jean Beliveau, who did the same thing. And
I didn't know this.
So when he got to the NHL, that was something that stuck with him and that he wanted to duplicate now that he was in that position. So
he didn't want to have him scribble a bunch with a Sharpie and say that's an autograph.
So just coming from that mindset, to me, tells you exactly the kind of individual that he is. And
it's attention to detail.
So that's that's always stuck with me from all the way back when he was playing, and when he came here, before I was even on the Flyer side. I was with the Phantoms when he arrived. That was the other thing too. The other story I can tell is that he in the 08-09 season, he was hurt, and he came down to the Phantoms for a rehab weekend. And he could have just shown up, gotten dressed, played the game, and left. But he did absolutely everything that we asked him to do in terms of media and everything like that. He was there and willing, and even asking what else he could do during that rehab assignment. This is back when he's basically the star of the Flyers at that point.
He was the prize acquisition year prior.
It might have been 07-08. It was not 08-09. It was 07-08.
That's his first year, 07-08.
Yeah, I guess it was one of those 2 years. It's been a while, but whatever time it was, he was Mr. Flyer at that time.
Yeah,
he was still kind of looked at above Carter, Richards, those guys. Just having worked with him for so long in those capacities, it's no surprise to see him, dealing with this the way that he is, and you're really kind of excited to see what he can bring to this side of the organization.
Yeah. To me, he's a good hockey man, and a good person, a hard worker, and not entitled. So many former players, they go in and they go, okay, I was a really good player. I'm going to get these opportunities and take them. And then Danny was like, no, I'm going to work my way up through the ranks, learn, go to school. And he said it was liberating going to school in your 40s when you want to learn, as opposed to, when you're 20 or 18, when you're just supposed to go and learn.
And
there's a difference.
Those meetings you were talking about, They're only interesting to a very small number of people, and the finance meetings aren't interesting to anybody. I can guarantee you that. Yeah. With all due respect,
that's like speaking
with
German.
all due respect to the finance folks, I mean, you do not want to sitting in a budget meeting for an NHL team is not that much different than sitting in a budget meeting for an insurance company. It's just you have numbers rolling along, and you're and God forbid you have to sit there and do what Barry Hankerhan does with the CPA. I mean, that can just put you into a coma with all the little ins and outs of something like that. So the fact that he has dove in, and then not only that, but when Comcast Spectacor bought the Maine Mariners 4 or 5 years ago now, to jump in and accept that assignment and say, okay, I'm going to hop in here and run this and use everything I've learned. He didn't relocate up there, so you're traveling to Maine all the time, and you're doing everything you can from the distance. I mean, that's hard work to do. Not a lot.
The salary, ECHL salary cap is weekly, by the way.
It is. I mean, I 20 years ago when I was in that league, it was like $15,000 a week, and you got to manage that.
Yeah.
And you also have to find housing for all your players, and you've got to deal with things like that, and
guys getting plucked and pulled up.
Yeah. Oh man, that's brutal. I mean, you think if you have experience watching an AHL team, you think it's tough there. It's even worse at the ECHL level because sometimes you have dual affiliation. Sometimes you got a guy that signs with your team, and then an American League team needs him that has nothing to do with you guys, and he goes there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you trade for a guy and say, I don't want to go play there, so he just doesn't report. I mean, it's there's all sorts of fun things to deal with at that level, and he took it on enthusiastically and did a great job at it.
Yeah. So congrats to Danny on his appointment as the special assistant to the GM. And he said a lot's going to change for him. He's been in these conversations for a while now. It's just kind of more official. And he's an asset to the organization and an asset to this community ever since he came here back in 2007. So we're very happy at him being appointed the special assistant to the GM. We do have a hockey game tonight. It is the Flyers and the Red Wings for the next 2 games, as a matter of fact. The old school home and home. Not the old school home and home like in 2 days, like the Flyers Rangers back in the day. But it's Flyers Red Wings tonight here at Wells Fargo. And it's Brian Smith and Jason Matitas coming to you live from the East Food Hall. And then Flyers in Detroit to take on the Red Wings Saturday afternoon. But tonight, Flyers look to win 3 straight. Right now, they've only won 3 straight games one time this season. And they haven't won more than 3 straight at any time this season. So they'll look to get the 3 straight tonight, then try and make it 4 straight on Saturday, and they'll look to do that in Detroit. So it's Carter Hart tonight against Alex Nedeljkovic. Now, Alex Nedeljkovic was the goaltender last year, of course, of the Carolina Hurricanes, and it shocked a lot of people that they didn't retain him, and he ends up going to Detroit in a deal, and they paid him decent money, which is why you kind of scratched your head and said, wait, he's a really good young goalie. Why didn't Carolina pay him? Carolina does things a little different. But
as I was saying earlier.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the deal there. Because Tom Dundon runs that organization on a shoestring.
Yeah, don't get me started on the broadcast side.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Forsland. But the Flyers haven't won 3 straight since they snapped their original 10-game winless skid against Vegas, Arizona, and New Jersey. That's how long it's been. December 14th was when they beat New Jersey to win 3 straight, if you can believe it.
Yeah, it's been a bit, and what I didn't realize either was that last win the Flyers got was their first regulation win in 6 weeks. So we got about 10 seconds till we're taking the air here.
All right, so we're on the Fanatic tonight.
Yes, we are.
All right.
So
so we're going to join our radio audience here momentarily. That's not true. It's Jason Matitas. It's Brian Smith, the East Food Hall, Wells Fargo Center. Flyers and Detroit. The Red Wings tonight in town. We'll see them in Detroit on Saturday. But tonight, the task at hand, the chance for the Flyers to win 3 straight games for the first time since December. They've won the 2 straight games, beat Los Angeles in overtime to end the 13-game winless skid. Then came back, got another win and which was a pretty impressive win. Their last one prior to this game tonight. Why can't I remember who they beat that night? Oh, they beat
Winnipeg?
Winnipeg. Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to you there for a moment. I was just trying to make sure we had some things
What are you, my wife? She's got that trick down.
Tuned you out for just a moment there. Yeah, Winnipeg was the last one. And again, the Flyers had kind of righted the ship back when we were talking about last time they won 3 in a row. It was mid-December. Things were looking good. And then the team kind of started getting derailed by COVID and the injuries. The injuries started getting worse and worse and worse. And that, to me, is the real catalyst of what we're looking at here in the last month with this team is the number of guys that are out of the lineup. I mean, the Flyers right now, coming in tonight, have lost 240 games, and that is a full season's worth, and we're here at game 46. So that just for some context there. The injury bug has been relentless and quick. It wasn't like this, it's guys like Sam Moran, Ryan Ellis, of course, have been out all season, but in December, the Flyers lost about 6 guys just like that. So that's kind of what drove this. And so now, I think you have, again, an organization's getting a couple of guys back, Broussard maybe tonight, but also kind of have maybe figured out how to cope with this a little bit. And again, the schedule kind of lightened up as well, so that didn't help. It didn't hurt matters, I should say. So hopefully they're going to keep going the right direction.
Well, it's Carter Hart tonight versus Alex Nedeljkovic. Nedeljkovic on the season, a record of 13-5, 2.90 goals against average, and a .911 save percentage. Now, Hart has been stellar, a .924 save percentage in his last 7 games. And when you consider that 5 of those are losses and how poorly the team was playing in front of him, pretty astounding. He's going to be a big part of it here in the second half. We'll see if Martin Jones remains with the team as we get closer to the deadline. He's on an expiring deal. But it's the Carter Hart show. And I imagine this month especially, right, we'll see a lot of Hart because the schedule is not too grueling.
I was looking at something that Bill Meltzer put out today, and he made a really great point that, with the team that's been playing in front of him, Carter is a factor of 1 additional save per 100 shots away from being top five in the NHL. He's that close.
Yeah.
So, imagine if the Flyers had a full season of Ryan Ellis and some of the other folks that have, Sean Couturier, obviously, he's a guy that, obviously everybody sees the offense that he brings, but we have seen it not only this year, but in past years when he's been hurt, how much his absence just throws everything into chaos. You have all that out there with him, and then I think you would see numbers reflecting the way Carter has actually played.
Yeah, totally agree. When you face Detroit, you got to deal with a couple of guys. They're both over point per game players. One of them is Dylan Larkin, one of the fastest guys in the NHL. He's leading Detroit in points. 42 games played. He's got 44 points, 23 goals. And Tyler Bertuzzi also 22 goals in just 39 games. So, like we talked about in that Winnipeg game, when Kyle Connor's on the ice, you got to be aware. When Dylan Larkin's on the ice and as a defenseman, you really got to be aware because of your gaps against that speed.
And you don't want to lose that guy. They've got him back front, obviously. Providing what he provides. They've got Seider in the back, who's another hot shot young defenseman. It's going to be a long career for him, and it's a good find for the Red Wings to pick him up. And then you've got some veterans that have had some success in this league. Nemestikov's on this team. Sam Gagne's on this team. You've got a lot of guys here where they're trying to again create a culture where they can turn things around here. And Steve Yzerman is somebody I don't think gets enough credit for laying the foundation to what the Tampa Bay Lightning have become.
That's his handiwork.
Exactly. It was certainly Julian Breesbrau brought it the rest of the way, but Yzerman knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he's the one that drafted Kucherov and Braden Point in the third round. And Vasilevsky.
So it's coming.
And Hedman was easier.
Yeah,
stop the draft.
Well, it's coming for this Detroit team, and right now again they're nothing special over in the Atlantic Division, but they're on their way back. That's for certain.
No doubt about it. It's the Flyers and the Red Wings tonight. It is now the push toward the trade deadline for the Flyers. And Claude Giroux coming off, speaking of trade deadline, I know he wouldn't prefer us lump the
He would
two
like us to shut
together.
up.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about it, and
Can't blame him.
you know, that's something that as a player they don't like to talk about that because they have to deal with what's in front of them and stay focused on games. But you know, when you talk about Claude Giroux and coming off the weekend, and boy, he looked like he had a lot of fun out at All-Star. It was in Vegas. Gavin, his older son, was there, along with his wife Ryan, and
that's the difference.
Just look, I mean, it's funny because you know you've known Claude for a long time, as I have, and from that guy with the flow that he had, and he was a kid, to now seeing him as a dad and still playing at a very high level at the age of 34, and seeing him out there having fun at All-Star was pretty cool. And then all the boys yesterday were giving him the stick taps, chanting MVP to make him go in and lead the stretches, and eventually he capitulated.
Yeah, he's come full circle. Seventh appearance. You know, the first one, he's a young guy back in 2011. You know, he goes back a few more times after that, and having done it before, but he gets to see other guys that are older than him out there with their kids and stuff like that. And then this year gets back there again, and he's able to enjoy it with his oldest son. So that's got to be extremely special for him. You never know when opportunities like this are going to come around again, and you know the fact that he was able to be on the winning team and take home a car of some sorts and perform as well as he did, I think is just icing on the cake for him. It was that whole experience that that's new for him, that he's never had before, that he'll be able to have forever.
As somebody who does a lot of asking questions for a living, I'm very not usually going to criticize a question asker, but the question that was asked of him when he won the MVP from Emily Kaplan of ESPN, Claude, you won the MVP. Any message for Alex Ovechkin? And I loved Claude's response. Not really. And then he kind of goes, I guess, feel better.
I hope he's feeling better after, testing positive for COVID on the last possible day of testing.
You're not buying that at all, are you?
I would if he hadn't tried to get out of 4 of them already.
14 All-Star games already.
But hey, whatever. We give him the benefit of the doubt, right?
Oh, my God.
We're talking about this.
It's insane. So, all right, it is the Flyers and the Red Wings. And you know who's back? Tim Saunders and Steve Coates. They've got the countdown to face-off and all the first period action. Stay tuned. You're listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network.
Oh, yeah. Hey.